Olivia never imagined her husband could lie so easily. For weeks, he had come home with slumped shoulders and forced sighs, claiming he'd lost his job. She held him, comforted him, supported him, until the day she found a crisp paycheck tucked inside the pocket of a jacket he rarely wore. A paycheck from a company she'd never heard of. And the amount printed on it was far more than he had ever earned before. That was the moment her world began to tilt. Hello, my friends. I am Olivia, and this is Olivia's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. My name is Clara, and for most of my life, I believed stability was something you built with your own hands, slowly, carefully, with love and consistency. I grew up in a house where uncertainty echoed in every room. Bills overdue, lights flickering, and parents arguing in whispered voices they thought I couldn't hear. So as an adult, my deepest need has always been the same: security. The kind that feels warm, solid, like the earth under your feet after a storm. When I married Ethan, I thought I had finally found that solidity. He was steady, soft-spoken, the kind of man who fixed squeaky doors before I even noticed they squeaked. He worked as an analyst for a mid-sized tech company. Nothing glamorous, but enough to keep our little apartment bright and our future promising. Or at least, I thought so. The morning he told me he'd lost his job, the air in our kitchen felt unusually still. It was early, sunlight barely a pale smear across the window. Ethan sat at the table, hands wrapped around a mug that had long gone cold. His voice cracked as he explained, and something in me softened instantly. I went to him, wrapped my arms around his shoulders, and whispered, "We'll get through this." The sound of my heart pounding drowned out everything else, like a distant drum warning of some approaching storm. At first, his sadness felt real. He spent long hours applying for jobs, scrolling through listings, sighing heavily as though each rejection tightened an invisible rope around him. At night, I'd hear him toss and turn, the mattress creaking in small, restless jolts. But then, little inconsistencies crept in. His shoes, oddly dusty, even though he claimed he hadn't left the apartment. The faint smell of unfamiliar cologne that lingered on him some evenings. The way he silenced his phone the moment I came into the room. Each time I questioned it, he brushed it off with gentle insistence, kissing my forehead and promising he was fine. And I wanted to believe him. God, I needed to believe him. Still, something gnawed at me, a quiet tapping inside my chest, like a warning I kept trying to ignore. The moment everything changed happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Ethan had rushed out earlier than usual for a job interview, leaving behind the jacket he always wore when he went out. I hadn't planned on touching it, but when I lifted it from the chair to hang it properly, a folded slip of paper slid from the inside pocket and fluttered onto the floor. A paycheck! Fresh, crisp, heavy in a way paper shouldn't feel. The company name printed on top? One I'd never heard of. And the amount... My breath stilled, the room around me fading into a dull hum. Why had he lied? My fingers trembled as I unfolded the check fully, and right then, I heard the front door handle jiggle. Ethan was home. The door eased open with a slow, creaking sigh, as if even the apartment itself sensed the tension thickening in the air. I froze, the paycheck still pinched between my fingers. My heartbeat thudded so loudly in my ears, it drowned out Ethan's footsteps as he entered. "Clara?" His voice floated from the hallway, calm, too calm. "You're home early?" I scrambled, slipping the check into my back pocket as if it were something dangerous, something radioactive that could expose us both. I turned just as he stepped into the living room. His expression softened at the sight of me, but his eyes, His eyes flicked briefly toward the coat draped over my arm. That was when the temperature in the room seemed to drop. I just wanted to tidy up, I said, forcing a smile. My voice felt brittle, like glass on the brink of shattering. How did the interview go? He shrugged, loosening his tie. Same as the last dozen. They'll keep me in mind. His sigh filled the room, long and heavy, like the groan of an overloaded ship at sea. I swallowed hard, studying him as he moved around the room. He didn't look like a man beaten down by unemployment. His shoulders weren't slumped, his eyes weren't tired. Instead, he looked energized, alert, as though he were carrying some secret adrenaline only he understood. For the rest of the evening, I walked on eggshells. Every sound felt magnified, the clattering of plates in the sink, the soft thud of his footsteps down the hallway, even the hum of the refrigerator, all underscored by the thunderous question pounding through my mind. Why did he lie? Later that night, when Ethan finally drifted into sleep beside me, the faint rhythm of his breathing filling the room, I slipped out of bed as quietly as I could. The paycheck felt like a burning coal in my pocket. I pulled it out and set it under the soft glow of the bedside lamp. There it was again. The unfamiliar company name. The oversized payment amount. The signature, scrawled at the bottom, sharp, rushed, almost anxious. My stomach twisted. What job paid this much? And why would he hide it from me? I reached for my phone, searching the company name. To my surprise, almost nothing came up. Just a bare-bones website with no staff photos, no mission statement, no contact number. A single email. A vague description about private sector analytics. Goosebumps rippled across my arms. Before I could dig deeper, I heard a rustle behind me. The sheets shifted, Ethan murmured in his sleep. I froze, breath caught in my throat. If he woke up and saw what I was doing? If he realized I knew? A small, irrational fear pulsed through me, dark and unfamiliar. The man beside me was my husband, the person I'd trusted most in this world. Yet now, with this one slip of paper, it felt like I was lying next to a stranger. I slid the paycheck beneath a stack of my notebooks, hiding it from sight, but not from thought. Because tomorrow, I decided, I would confront him. I would look him in the eyes and ask him the question clawing at my insides. But the universe had other plans. The next morning, before I could say a word, something happened that made my blood run cold. Ethan's phone buzzed with a message, and he snatched it from the table so quickly, so desperately. You would have thought it was a matter of life and death. Ethan almost never moved fast, not in the mornings, not before coffee, not ever. But when his phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, he lunged for it with such urgency that the chair beside him scraped sharply against the tile, the sound slicing through the air like a blade. I froze mid-step. He didn't notice. His back was to me, shoulders tight, body coiled like he was bracing for impact. The phone screen lit up, reflecting a pale glow across his face. I caught only a glimpse, just a blurred preview of a message, but it was enough to make the hairs on my arms lift. A single line. We need to talk. Now. Not a name. Just a number. A local number. His breathing grew shallow as he typed something back, fast, frantic taps. Then he locked the screen and slid the phone into his pocket before turning around. I plastered on a smile I didn't feel. Everything okay? Yeah, he said. Spam caller. Spam callers don't text. Spam callers definitely don't say we need to talk. The lie slid out of him with unsettling ease. Clara, I should run out for a bit, he added, grabbing his keys. Another job lead. Nothing promising, but who knows? He kissed my cheek. I barely felt it. The door closed behind him with a heavy thud that seemed to vibrate through my ribs. The moment he was gone, the silence of the apartment felt charged, like static before a lightning strike. My heart pounded in a rapid, jittery rhythm. I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know something was terribly wrong. I rushed back to the bedroom, pulled out the paycheck from where I'd hidden it, and stared at the company name again. I typed it into the search bar with trembling fingers, digging deeper this time, way beyond the first page, beyond the second, down into forums and scattered mentions across obscure sites. And there it was. A post from an anonymous account. Anyone know anything about Larkwood Industries? They reached out with a job offer, but everything about them seems off. Another reply beneath it. Be careful. I heard they handle private contracts for wealthy clients, stuff that isn't exactly legal. My stomach dropped. Illegal? Private contracts? Why would Ethan, a kind, predictable, quiet man, work for a company like that? The realization hit me like a blow. He hadn't lost his job. He had chosen to leave it. For something secret. Something dangerous. I felt my breathing turn shallow, my fingertips cold. Images flashed through my mind. Ethan slipping out early, coming home late, the smell of unfamiliar cologne, the frantic phone grab. What was he involved in? And then I noticed something else, something that made my pulse skid. On the bottom corner of the paycheck, written in faint, handwritten pencil, almost too light to notice, were the numbers. 7:45 p.m., Pier 19. Pier 19. A location. A time. Tonight. My hands shook violently. Was he meeting someone? Was he part of something criminal? Was he in danger? Was I? The room suddenly felt too small, the air too thin. The distant rumble of traffic outside sounded like an approaching storm. I had two choices. Confront him and risk him lying again. Or follow him and finally learn the truth. By evening, I already knew what I would do. At 7:40 p.m., shivering inside my coat, I stood hidden behind a stack of old shipping crates at Pier 19. The wind whipped across the water, carrying the metallic clang of boat masts and the low creak of wooden docks. Then, footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Approaching. I pressed myself deeper into the shadows, heart slamming against my ribs. And then I saw him. Ethan. My husband. Walking towards someone waiting in the darkness, someone tall, broad, and wearing a dark coat. The two men stopped just a few feet from me. And then, the stranger handed Ethan a thick black envelope. The envelope slid into Ethan's hands with a soft, leathery whisper, so quiet it was nearly swallowed by the wind whipping across the pier. But to me, the sound was deafening. My breath lodged in my throat as I watched him tuck it inside his jacket with the careful precision of someone handling something dangerous or precious. The stranger leaned in, his voice low but sharp enough to cut through the icy air. You know the rules. No communication, no hesitation, and absolutely no mistakes this time. This time, my pulse lurched. Ethan nodded, jaw tense, eyes cast downward. Not the posture of a criminal, no, the posture of someone trapped, cornered, afraid. A gust of wind rolled across the pier, carrying the hollow clang of a loose metal chain. The stranger stepped back, blending into the shadows like he'd been born from them. A moment later, he was swallowed by the darkness, leaving Ethan alone beneath the dim, flickering dock light. I should have left. I should have walked away quietly, unnoticed, and gone straight to the police. But the urge to understand, really understand, overpowered every rational thought in my head. This was my husband, the man I had married, the man I still loved, even as fear curled around my ribs like tightening vines. I stepped out from behind the crates. Ethan. He spun around so fast I flinched. For a split second, pure panic flashed across his face, raw, unfiltered, blinding. The kind of panic that came from being caught in a truth he never wanted me to see. Clara? His voice cracked, barely audible over the wind. What are you doing here? What am I doing here? My words trembled, fought for steadiness, then broke. What are you doing here? Who was that man? What's in the envelope? And why? Why did you lie to me? His gaze darted to the shadows where the stranger had disappeared, then back to me. The dock lights flickered, casting trembling streaks across his face. For a moment, he looked like two different men at once, my husband and someone else entirely. He closed the distance between us with slow, hesitant steps. Clara, listen, I can explain, but not here. Then where? I demanded. My voice rose, carried by the cold wind across the empty pier. Where is it safe enough for you to tell your own wife the truth? He winced, the pain in his eyes almost enough to make me falter. Almost. I didn't lose my job, he admitted. I left because I didn't have a choice. We were drowning, Clara. The bills, the repairs, your medical expenses last winter. I couldn't keep up. I tried. God, I tried. And then Larkwood reached out. A chill ran down my spine at the name. They offered me a job, he continued, one that pays more in a month than I used to make in a year. But doing what? I whisper. He opened his mouth, but the answer never came. A sudden snap echoed from the far end of the pier, sharp, like a breaking twig or a boot stepping on something brittle. Ethan's eyes widened. "Get down!" he yelled. Before I could even scream, he lunged toward me. Something whizzed through the air, fast, slicing, deadly, and the wooden crate behind me exploded into splinters. Someone was watching. Someone was still here. Someone didn't want Ethan talking. And now they knew I was here too. The last thing I felt was Ethan's arms wrapping around me, pulling me to the ground as another sharp crack split through the night. And then, everything went black.